difficulties. Story of our life, right, Linda?
Well, lately, seems like.
Yes. All right. So we are live. Welcome, everyone, to Where's Your Focus podcast. I'm Karen Alexander.
And I'm Linda Melanson.
So whether you're watching live or watching the recording, we are so grateful to have you here again today with us on our May finale month before we go into our summer season. If you're watching live, or we encourage that you say hi and let us know where you're from, ask any questions, become part of what's going on today. And if you are watching the recording, by all means, ask any questions as well, and we will do our best to get those questions answered. We are going to have a different type of show today. We do have Kevin Orosz coming on, and we will be discussing some sexual topics. So we just want to mention that you use your own discretion for that. We're not quite talking about as much, Linda, hey, as what we did the first Sacred Intimacy show, but there's still some things in there. So use your discretion there. I'm going to let Linda explain out Kevin a little bit later on, but we'll get right into the Schumann's resonance. So if you remember, the end of April, early May, we had some significant peaks in the amplitude and a lot of fluctuation in the frequency. And if you remember last week, we didn't have any, we used two websites where we go and look at the Schumann's resonance. And the one that we used, HeartMath, that was off air. We couldn't get any data from there last week. So I've gone on and had a look at that. But if you remember the other one last week, we had a lot of the first 5 days of May was crazy. And we had a lot of high peaks on the 4th and the 5th of May. So it was really curious I was really curious as to what was going on in the HeartMath at the same time. I'll get into that in just a few minutes. And if you remember as well, we spoke about the graphs and how much there was a lot of white energy coming through there. Well, that has not changed. There's still a lot of white to be seen there. So what we'll do is we'll just mention a few of the highlights from disclosurenews.it, which is over in Russia, and it talks about Italy as well. So on the 7th, they had a power of 70, which remained there at a power of 70 for 5 consecutive hours. And during that day, interesting, because it was only 2 days after the peaks, right, which were the 4th and the 5th, the amplitude actually hit a maximum power of 94, and it hit over 93 times. So there was a lot of peaks that happened during that one day. And then on the 8th, there was a sharp drop in the frequency. It brought it back to 7.30 hertz. And a record high, the pot high for that day was only a power of 110. So there was a lot of, like I say, a lot of fluctuation there. And what they're saying was there was 20 consecutive hours during which the frequency had moderate oscillations of 7.30 hertz. And what they say is that it was a unique condition because what it seems to be is, or what it could be, is that the frequency rises towards the base value and then we get back to the calm, or the frequency remains low. And that's when the amplitude really goes crazy, but the quality, the power of the quality comes to an end, and then the amplitude goes crazy. So it seems to be that when the frequency is low, the quality will move if the frequency is not moving much. But as soon as the frequency starts to move, it drives the amplitude to move. And that's when we see the spikes in the amplitude. So yeah, it's all interesting, but you can go on and read it. Like we say, we encourage you to do that on the Schumann's resonance. It's disclosurenews.it. So in the last week, it's gone down, the amplitude has gone down as low as 10, and the quality has gone up as high as 17. But today, what they're showing is the amplitude of 53, the quality of 7.8, the maximum frequency of 7.99, and the minimum frequency of 7.35. And that's pretty much in what's been happening over the course of the week. That maximum and minimum frequency is 8 hertz down to about 7.3. So that's what's going on over in Russia and Italy. But when we look at heart math, now, again, last week we didn't have any information. So I went back to May the 4th to see what was happening on May the 4th and the 5th. And on May the 4th, in each of those 6 areas in California, Saudi Arabia, Lithuania, Alberta, Northland, New Zealand, and in South Africa, not South Africa, sorry, all of the others hit their maximum values on May the 4th. And in South Africa, which is always a few days behind, right? They hit their maximum value on May the 8th.
Wow.
So, yeah. So, I mean, I guess it makes sense, right? Because the Schumann's resonance is all around the earth. So
Yeah.
it's going to hit the maximums around the same time. But if we look at the maximum values for California on May the 4th, it was 113. And today, or May the 10th, because they're 2 days behind, it's 80. So it's gone down a little bit. In Saudi Arabia, it went from the 4th, 278 to today, or 2 days ago, 134. Lithuania was different. On April the 30th, it was at 152. So that one didn't peak on the 4th. Sorry. That actually went flat. And it's been flat ever since then. Alberta is the one that we're always so interested in because it is in Canada. And of course, we're in Canada. Yeah. So May the 4th, it was at 286.
Wow.
Now that's high. That's higher than it's been for the last 4 weeks. And on the 10th, which was 2 days ago, again, 160.5 power.
Yeah.
Northland in New Zealand, the 4th, it was 139.5. Today it's at 53. And that's really low compared to what it has been since the 24th of April. It's gone from 193, 134, 169, 139, and now it's down to 53. So it's at its low for the last month. South Africa as well is at its low for, I think, probably since about December, because remember, Linda, that's the one that was flat for so long.
Yeah.
It was always high. On May the 8th, it was at 652, which was usually around anywhere from 400 to 700, right? On today, or 2 days ago on May the 10th, it's at 115. So I think it went down to 113 or 112, maybe a few weeks back, sometime early April. But this is down to, the base of where we've seen it since we've started doing the podcast, since we started back in December. So yeah, that's definitely stuff going on. May has been so far been a crazy month with regards to the Schumann's resonance. It's just all over the place. That white light energy that's coming through is amazing. I'm sure everybody is feeling it because everybody is talking about it.
Man, I'm getting tons of messages and people reaching out, just trying to figure out what is going on. And you know what? It makes a lot of sense. I mean, when you look at the numerology aspect of it, right? We're in the 5th month of the fifth year, and 5 is all about high energy, fast change. It makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense.
And anybody who does those energy readings, and Linda, that's something you should really start doing, is energy readings. But anybody who listens to the energy readings that are done by many people, right? May the 5th, the whole month of May is the month of change. Yeah. So that's really what we're starting to see. And it's really exciting. It's nice to see. It's good to see.
It is. And it's interesting because each day is bringing something different according to where you are in your cycles. And that is such an interesting thing to me. That's where I like to put my attention and my focus is, where are you in your cycles and where you're learning? Because your energy system is in a cycle of learning, right? And
Absolutely.
so every cycle has something new to bring in. So it's just really interesting. So talking about the moon, we just went into Taurus on Sunday. Monday, 4 p.m., we hit the new moon. Now, this was on the 10th, so now we're restarting a cycle. So if you're anything like me, on the 9th, I was like, I got this, oh, I want to like change everything in my life. So I reorganized like my whole house. I have like so many different areas and different interests happening. So on the 9th, I was like, oh, I need to complete some stuff. So I'm going to reorganize everything. Then the one comes in on, our new cycle on the new moon, right? And it's in a Taurus energy. So that's giving us, it's a very grounded energy, but it's still relationship oriented. Right. So remember when we did the full moon, it was all like really intense, outgoing energy about relationship with others. But then again, it was also about relationship with ourselves, because our relationship to ourselves connected to relationship to others. But now we're back into that new moon again, and we're still almost in the exact same type of energy. So we're still working on, but it's more of an internal reflection. It's not so much of an external reflection this time. And so that Taurus energy, you want to get out and get working in the earth, or however you can do that. Grounding is extremely important right now, because this is where we're going to get that new information that we need. This is where we're going to clear and allow ourselves to tap into what we need, the new information, right? Because all that white light coming in, there's all kinds of new information available to us right now, but we have to invite it in. We have to invite it in. So today we are switching over into Gemini. Now the Gemini, it's those twin energy, right? So we have like Jekyll and Hyde kind of idea. So it depends on where you are. It's like, you want to go this way, or do you want to go that way? Do you want to believe this one, or do you want to believe that one? And it's about communicating too, because we're on a 3 cycle. So we're communicating. We need to communicate. If you're having a hard time communicating right now, I'd be asking why, because it's a really easy energy to connect with others and communicate right now. It's also a social time, and communications of all kinds are really important for this cycle. On Friday, we're switching over.
Linda, your sound is gone.
My sound is gone?
Gone.
Wow. All right. It's so interesting how that happens.
There you go.
Is it back on?
Yeah, it's back on.
That is so weird.
Right? And would that have anything to do with the moon affecting your technology there?
Oh man, it's been crazy this month. I don't know why.
Right, since May came in, right?
Since
the
May
sound
came in.
is either you or me.
That's right. And I feel like maybe it's the energy is just so intense that it just like throws off the technology.
The things that has happened before. So
it has. Okay, so Friday we go into Cancer. Now we're moving into a more water. But Friday, we're also in a cycle of 5 as well. So it's going to be high energy. But it's going to be more related to your emotions. So emotional awareness is going to be something that you can really grasp onto this weekend. But if that's something that's difficult, if you have high emotions on a regular basis, it may shoot you through the roof. Just try to ground, try to understand, communicate with those emotions. You may experience pain in the body as well, because those emotions are so high. And so focus on that, communicate with it, right? Rest is going to be really important this weekend too. We have to take time for ourselves, really important. And it's a new energy for the soul. that's what's coming in this weekend. So exciting, because you have the 1 and the 4, right? And the 5 is the total, but the 1 and 4 energy with the 5, it's like you were starting new things. There's new energy there. It's going to come in so fast. We may miss some details. Don't get bogged down. Just accept that there's perfection in the imperfection. Right? Okay. Yes. And home life. So being home, quiet, relaxed, is going to be important for you this weekend. So that's what I got.
Good. Awesome. Wow.
I know, so interesting. I'm like so loving doing the moon and the numerology cycles and all of that stuff. I've been doing a few charts here and there, so thank you everybody who's reached out. If you're interested, please reach out and get your chart done. It's so cool. Awesome. Okay, so now, because of time difference, our guest today, we had to do a pre-recording for him. But I have been watching him for 3 years now. Karen has gotten watching some of his stuff in the last 6 months, and we are so pleased to have him talk with us on Mondays when we did our recording. Such an interesting individual. His name is Kevin Orosz. He is a speaker, mentor, archetypal visionary. He's a coach, entrepreneur coach as well, also a philosopher and a student of human myths.
He's amazing.
What's that?
He's amazing.
He is amazing. He is driven by offering his voice and presence to improving the lives of people all over the world. Through his podcast, it's like quotes R and then evolution. So it's like revolution. And online courses where he helps men really find who they are on the inside. So he takes them through visionary quests and different things through his course. And so he really is helping people claim their kingdom. So he has different books that are out. One is The Sexual Masculinity, and this is what we're talking to him about today, is the masculine energy or the masculine perspective on sacred intimacy. So without further ado, now, okay, Kevin, thank you so much for being here on the show. We're so pleased to have you here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and how you got to be such an expert in divine masculine intimacy?
Well, thank you for having me, Linda and Karen. It's really an honor to be here. Certainly a student. I don't know if I'm an expert, and the only way to arrive at that is a lot of trial and error / pain and inquiry. That's all I can say about that. I mean, I do a lot of different things. I have a podcast, author of a book, Sex, Masculinity, God. I coach clients one-on-one to build their brands and businesses, and also to do deep archetypal shadow work. And yeah, I mean, my journey began in Texas, where I was born and raised. Thought I was going to go into PhD psychology. Through heartbreak and a lot of burnout, struggling in that paradigm, struggling to understand, alcohol culture and corporate culture and, the kind of life that's been laid out for many people in America. Through yoga, through martial arts, through studying philosophy, and also plant medicine, I kind of popped out of that methodology and moved to California, entered Burning Man culture, lived in the Bay Area, and did a lot of experimentation with Eastern arts and practices, from Hatha yoga to Kundalini yoga to Tai Chi, Qigong to meditation to Taoism and tea ceremony also. And this just built and basically spurred me into digital nomadism, becoming an entrepreneur, backpacking all through Southeast Asia, studying yoga and bioenergetics in India, backpacking the Himalayas, and then I returned to LA after that hero's journey and founded a lifestyle brand with two of my best friends and business partners. And that's when really what started as yoga and personal training as an entrepreneur quickly turned into coaching, and then retreats and workshops, and then online courses and my own methodologies, which I now am creating in my academy online and writing about on social.
Incredible journey. Yeah.
Amazing.
I love hearing you talk, and
such an array of experiences, Kevin, you've had. And I mean, you're not an old man, you know, so to be able to do what you've done, and I've looked at some of your pictures, and wow, yeah, just beautiful.
Well, I'm really just grateful to life. It's really a surrender experiment. If you've read Michael Singer's work, you know, I couldn't have designed or come up with any of this, and much of it was fumbling or falling into these wondrous circumstances. And not all of it was wondrous. A lot of it was deep and dark and ugly.
And that's the whole journey of it, is the deep, dark, and ugly is really what transforms us into who we're becoming anyway.
100%.
Exactly. Yeah. Wow. Amazing. So where are we going to go from here? We're excited to talk to you about everything that all the sacred masculine, the sacred intimacy for the masculine. So we're going to let you go. Where do you want to start?
Yeah, I mean, the way I learned about that, and really a big part of my awakening, was being cheated on. So I was raised Catholic, super, you know, interested in that, you know, being celibate, wanting to be a good man, go to heaven, all that jazz. And yeah, this led me to really a wake-up call when I realized in college I'd been cheated on by this woman that at one point I thought could be my wife. You know, we've been dating a long time. No penetration. I mean, we're doing everything else, but still, this was quite a shock to me. And that the naivete of my relating, which I always talk about Disney programming, and had been informed by my own parents, who, bless their hearts, love you, Mom, here in tail end of Mother's Day, provided, you know, zero example for a healthy marriage. And yeah, really just the whole idea of white picket fence, one woman forever, you know, don't ask, don't tell, don't talk about it, with sexuality, intimacy, emotional intelligence. I mean, none of this stuff is offered, certainly where I grew up. So that was a devastating blow to my images around, you know, being a man in relationship, being intimate. And that sent me on a wide-ranging journey of, you know, experimenting with celibacy and just completely, you know, being like a yogi or a monk and just working on my own body, all the way to, you know, polyamory and open relating non-monogamous styles, as well as that's where Tantra came in. I discovered Montauk Chia's book, The Multi-Orgasmic Man, which I would highly recommend to any man who wants to understand, you know, what's available to ejaculation. And so that for a lot of men is the beginning of their journey, right? They just want to be better lovers with performers in bed, which who doesn't? So that certainly was the beginning of my journey, but this led me deep into a rabbit hole of, you know, Montauk Chia is a Qigong master, the whole Taoist system, you know, sex is just 10% of it. There's so much going on. And it's the same in the Hindu tantric system, which then I really threw myself into and got certified as a yoga teacher and went really deep on that path. You know, it's all about mastering your body's energy. So now where this comes into relating is that ideally, if you're a man relating to a woman, or if you're a masculine being relating to a feminine being, which it works the same in same-sex couples, it works the same in any configuration. This is energy. So you can situate yourself listening to this, wherever you fall on that. You know, polarity, leadership, emotional intelligence, and communication are what come into play. And so for me, I didn't discover that I had, you know, come out of these codependent patterns until I started dating a sovereign woman. And then I got rocked into understanding, holy shit, I don't know anything about how to, you know, create secure attachment and trust. And so this is when I started studying authentic relating and communication and circling, nonviolent communication. This is also where somatics and bioenergetics come in. So through various forms of breath work, I studied a lot with Osho style meditation, a lot of the sannyasins that were at this ashram in India, and also further in my journey. You know, all this started to lead me towards men's work, which I didn't realize was an option until I encountered Elliot Hulse, who was a former strongman in Florida and amazing teacher when I met him. Now, you know, if you look up his content, you might be shocked, but I met him in a really sweet spot where he was deeply studying Wilhelm Reich and Alexander Lowen and their work of bioenergetics and the somatic experiencing, which is like super intense, almost shamanic level breath work and tantric energy practices and meditations that drop you into the pain or the issue in the body. It's not just the concept. And so you can experience being abandoned by your mother energetically, or you can experience being, you know, abused by your father, or whatever it is. You know, everyone has their flavor. And so this really led me to understand, okay, why are men fucked up? You know, why do I feel fucked up? Well, it's because we've lost rites of passage. So all ancient people, when the boy gets old enough, around 13 to 18, he has to be taken from his mother, and that has to be severed. He's initiated with the men. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a hunt, it's going to be a vision quest, it's going to be a fast, it's going to be combat, it's going to be psychedelics. There's a lot of styles, but every culture did this. Women are initiated automatically by their womb. The first bleed and pregnancy are massive initiators for the female that nature provides, right? And then there's also rituals with the women, right? Red tent and women coming into connection. But for men, it can really be missed. And our culture has done, well, it's not even they've done a bad job. It doesn't even exist. The only pseudo initiations that most men fall into are sports and the military, which I considered both. I wanted to be I wanted to go to West Point at one point and was obsessed with military history and that business until I realized it was corrupt, to say the least. And then sports, you know, I went deep into American football and soccer and realized that culture was toxic for me as a very sensitive, imaginative, artistic, creative young man. So that's where I thought academia would lead me, which it didn't. And then luckily I was blessed enough to find these male mentors and actually start doing men's work regularly, attending multiple trainings. And then I've been blessed since to be a part of and leading a lot of different men's circles with amazing men around the world.
Wow. Kevin, you have so much knowledge. It just boggles my mind. Like there's so much that you're saying and I'm going, what is that? What is that? You know, it's amazing.
It is amazing. It truly is.
Wow. Yeah. One thing you mentioned though about the relationships as well, right? And the man when they're young children, like you're right. Like over here in Canada and the United States, what is there when there's young boys? Like all they're told is, oh, don't cry. You're not supposed to cry. You're a big boy now, right? So the emotional part of it that the men on this side are getting, it's starting to come into play now with the Aboriginals and the shamanists that we have around that are starting to come around, right? But before that, I mean, the poor little boys and the poor men didn't stand a chance when it came to emotional relationships.
Yeah, I mean, the basic idea is, you know, for a man to self-individuate and actualize, he needs a dream or a vision from Creator. This is how the indigenous talk about it. So to find that, it's basically your purpose. To find that, you have to isolate and you have to be taken in connection with nature and other men to experience that. Mm-hmm. Now, the trap is if a man doesn't receive that, and it has to be facilitated by other men, ideally, then he'll never leave what's called the world of the mother. So he'll just expect, you know, mommy will become society or this boss or the job or the wife to give to me. And it's like a caterpillar, you know, it's a caterpillar who never turned into a butterfly and becomes quite dysfunctional.
And that just makes so much sense to me because, I mean, relationships break down because of that. You know, typically around 30 years old, the woman gets fed up with having a third child or a fourth child in a husband, right?
That's right.
And what you're talking about is exactly what it is. It's like, why am I doing the laundry and cooking meals and everything and looking after my kids and not having a life for myself when he just comes home and sits on the couch and watches TV all evening, right? That's a big thing. And what you're saying just makes sense. It just makes so much sense. So how do I mean, you know, in where we're living in Canada and probably the States as well, it seems like the women are, and I don't want to sound disrespectful, but it seems like the women are becoming more aware a lot faster than what the men are. Now, we do have a lot of men that are aware in our circle where we are here, because we, you know, we kind of try to hang out with like-minded people. But for anybody who doesn't have a clue what we're talking about, say, does it for the men, where would you suggest they would start?
First step is to read Iron John by Robert Bly, or read King, Warrior, Magician, Lover by Robert Moore and Douglas Gillette. Those two books will inform you about the playing field of masculinity as it has been practiced for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. Now, if you're not a reader, that's fair. Join a men's group. Don't know of a men's group in your area? Start one. How do you start one? Invite your male friends to a set time and date, create a container, and just check in. So no phones, no TV, no beers, just check in and share what's real for you in succession. Naturally, organically, an intelligence will emerge that will guide that circle. And then you just stay consistent. That's the most simple step that most men do naturally and unconsciously, but in ways that don't allow for the real topics to be addressed, or to receive support, or to receive mentorship. Men need mentors. And the problem is, because this has been going on for so long, a lot of the older men aren't fit to be mentors. They're older, they're not elders. So we have a crisis of eldership in the West.
That makes sense too. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because like you say, and I mean, I'm one of the older ones. I was kind of late in my, well, not really, but more so in the last probably 5 years, probably around 25 when I started. But, you know, there was so few people back then. You really didn't have anybody to go to, even with the women. Now there's a big difference in that. And the older men, like I say, they're where the men have not in our areas anyway, have not kind of come out with the new way, for lack of a better word. They're still so conditioned, like you say, with the Disney and the, you know, everything else that we've been conditioned on with our lives. So it's hard, and I guess we have to look to the younger generation to kind of pick up the slack there.
But as you said, it's never too late to start, and quantum leaps are available right now on Earth. You know, Earth is a school, and right now class is in session, and it's PhD level work on Earth right now. So you can jump really, really, really fast. And then the good news is it's all in our DNA. It's all ancient stuff. None of this stuff is new. Your ancestors literally did this on both sides, mother and father's side, for a long, 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 long time. It was severed pretty recently, industrial times. And it's okay, because, you know, the pieces are still there. They just have to be put back together. And really a lot of it's elimination. Just eliminate the toxic culture. Yeah. Stop worshiping celebrities, politicians, religious pundits, these leaders that aren't actually leaders. They're predators. And we need to understand what we're dealing with. They're parasites. Many of them are not only, you know, it's not just ignorance that they're fucking up, you know, educating people on masculinity and femininity. It's weaponization. Yeah. So that's what we're up against is, you know, it's the forces that should not be are very clear that if they separate the sexes, you can just destroy a tribe like that, because if the men and women aren't in alliance, the tribe can't even hold its feet on the ground.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Can you talk to us some more about the polarity that you spoke about earlier, talking about just the energy exchange that happens in intimacy, and that balance between the feminine and masculine?
Yeah, this is a big one. And to understand this, I mean, the seminal work is The Way of the Superior Man by David Data. Many works by David Data will help you understand this. And, you know, certainly Data didn't get everything right. It's written, you know, maybe 10 years ago now or something, but it lays out this idea of polarity very well. And it's very simple, you know, it's like magnetism, it's physics. It has nothing to do with preference and like gender identity. It's physics. Somebody is going to hold that masculine polarity, which is a flavor of decisive, discerning, direct, penetrative, consciousness present. And somebody's going to hold the feminine polarity, just like a magnet. Feminine polarity is juicy, spontaneous, feeling, sensing, surrendered. There's flavors to it, right? And there's obviously everything in between. But that energy spark that makes you want to fight or fuck, or that energy, that's high polarity. That's eroticism. That's also the creative spark. So any good business person, artist, or athlete will also create this energy within themselves, which is the goal. But in a relationship, you can create it with two people, which is insanely powerful. So a lot of what happened is that, you know, in the old kind of model, the man was masculine, but he's very like, kind of like stunted masculine. So it's like machismo or like imagery or like very one-dimensional. And the woman was very feminine or submissive, but in a way that wasn't empowering. It was very one-dimensional, housewife, blah, blah, blah. But that worked. That traditional role worked to a certain extent. And then we have the 60s happening, where sex, drugs, rock and roll just unleashed the unconscious in America. And what happens is the polarity actually reversed. So a lot of men went into their feminine and got trapped. So they like quit their job, maybe smoked a lot of ganja, grew their hair out, played music, blah, blah, blah. And the women put suits on and went to work and really soldiered up and started running families. And this is compounded by the insanely high divorce rate and rates of domestic violence and abuse, because a lot of the women had to become strong in their masculine to protect the children and provide. So the reversal started to happen around that time in the West. And now we're on the full other side of that, where it's reversed again, but in a completely backwards way, where, you know, and my heart goes out to these people, because I have friends that are non-binary, and I know people that, you know, in indigenous times, it's like twin spirit. You know, there are people that have equal masculine, feminine. They're very rare in my experience. And there are people who, you know, choose different non-binary configurations. And that's beautiful. But the idea that, you know, it's all equal and a man can do anything a woman can and a woman can do anything a man can, I mean, it's just not true. Man can't have a child.
Yeah.
There are biological differences that matter and are sacred.
Yeah.
And I personally celebrate that. And every time, you know, I see myself or someone celebrate that on social media, there's this insane backlash from cancel culture and these toxic forces of, like, you know, some people call it the radical left or, you know, whatever. You know, it doesn't really matter from the politicized part of this. What matters is polarity. And in a relationship, if you want to create polarity, someone needs to consciously choose to hold the masculine energy, and someone needs to consciously choose to hold the feminine energy. For most people I've met and I've worked with, and for me, that the man is going to be more comfortable and dominant in his masculine energy. The woman's going to be more comfortable and dominant in her feminine energy. And I say dominant, not about domination and submission, dominant as in that's the most energy. And so when you own that and you lead from that space, another word people get triggered by, alpha. When you're in an alpha state and you're leading, it's a primal, intuitional, instinctual energy. It's not rational. It's not something you can like point to and be like, oh, you did that correctly. It's a sense. And it also happens to lead to emotional intimacy, great sex, clear focus, optimal health, and usually financial abundance also. Because if you're in high polarity, money works the same way, business works the same way, because this is playing out in all these dynamics in the social human world.
Wow. I love that explanation so much. And it's so interesting because I feel like we're all striving for that balance of female, male energy inside of ourselves, right? And when you achieve that balance and you come to your relationship with that balance, and that other person is also balanced in that way, it really can explode the energy. And, you know, the sky's the limit at that point. But the knowledge of how to achieve that is just so rare. these days. It's so hard to come across that, you know? So I love people like you who are out there just bringing this knowledge forward and constantly just putting it out there.
Well, it's baffling that it's rare.
It is.
Because it's the most natural thing, and it's not anything new. This is ancestral tech that's in our genome. It's not a radical notion. And that's why you should be suspect of anyone who's telling you otherwise, using, and I'm a philosopher, so I love this stuff, but I also understand how it can be weaponized. These French existentialists, these nihilists, these certain thinkers, which I won't even name, it's a whole rabbit hole, but this is like 100 years old, 200 years old max. And you think that's going to redefine gender roles and how polarity works and energetics, which are written about in the Vedas, written about in the, the Upanishads and the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, and even older than that. Thousands and thousands and thousands of years of human observation has identified this stuff. It's not going to be rewritten by a couple, depressed European intellectuals. But that's how the political and dogmatic space is playing out right now, which is fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, it is. It's very interesting. So when you're talking about the polarity, when you come into union in a sexual experience, like, can you talk about that a little bit more? Because I mean, I've experimented with this, and I have, brought things into creation through that experience, right? And, use the energy in that way. What is your experience? Like, what is your ideas around, how that union can create energy and synergistic experiences?
I mean, sexuality is the most healing and creative force for humanity, period.
Mm-hmm.
And so the fact that it's been repressed or shamed or tabooed should tell you something. Think that's a coincidence?
No.
No, it's no such thing. So really, the techniques and the concepts are cool to talk about, but honestly, for most people, including myself, the most simple thing you can do is just bring presence into sexuality. What does that look like tactically? Ritual, setting a container, stating intentions, eye contact, breath, letting there be a charge and like building it, and then go about it however you want to go about it. But the key is to bring that presence in, and this polarity stuff will naturally become extremely obvious.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's possible for a woman to lead in her masculine energy and be like that with the man. And some men like to be in their feminine energy, and certainly it can switch. So it's not like you're stuck in one. There's an interplay. In my experience, though, if you're present and aware, and you're able to use sound and breath and intention, and you're able to communicate clearly too, that's a huge part, is just, can you actually state your desire clearly? Can you ask for your needs clearly? Mm-hmm. Can you say no? Can you set boundaries? Can you give consent with conscious intention? And can you also create play and the polarity through language and the mind? It's all there and it's all present. So I think most people, because there's real shit there. There's the shame. If you have any kind of religious upbringing, I certainly experienced my share of that. There's also just the lack of education. So again, if like, I always recommend this to clients, the multi-orgasmic man, and there's the multi-orgasmic woman, both by Montauk Chia, that will, they'll give you 100 different little practices to try on your own and with a partner that will blow your mind. And a lot of it has to do with strengthening the pelvic floor and using breath and intention to circulate the energy, instead of just, getting into a biological sneeze, like just climaxing ASAP. And then, it's about charging and circulating the energy, and withholding it from being leaked, and building your container, building your body. And this also builds the emotion and the intimacy. This also builds your physical health. Like for men, if you don't ejaculate for 7 days, your testosterone can go up like 140%. Mm-hmm. If you're in your 20s, 30s, or 40s. And it depends on, your diet. It depends on your sleep. There's all these factors, but, there's real scientific evidence for a lot of this stuff now that's being actively studied. that the ancients have known about forever, you know, but it's like in the West, we love data. So the data is there. You can go find it right now with a Google search.
So what do you think that the detriment to just having sex for orgasm purposes? Like, what do you think is happening in the energy wise that way?
Well, I mean, in Chinese medicine, they talk about the three treasures, so the energy bodies like Jing, Qi, and Shen. Jing being the most dense, and Shen being the most like refined. And I mean, it's very simple. For a man, now the orgasm and ejaculation are different because as a man, you can have non-ejaculatory orgasms. So orgasm is great. The more the merrier for men and women. Releasing tons of energy, huge cocktail of beneficial hormones and neurotransmitters, relaxation, energy, creativity, all of it. Now, ejaculation will drain your jing. Now, if you're young and you're in your 20s as a man, you know, it's not so big of an issue. If you're in your 30s, not so big of an issue. As you get older, 40s, 50s, 60s, you know, you want to preserve jing so you can withhold and strengthen your qi, because jing becomes qi, and your qi is like your energy, and then qi becomes shen, which is that spiritual energy. So for a lot of men, you know, their ejaculation, their frequent ejaculation is weakening them. It's aging them. Now, luckily for women, you can basically have as many, the more orgasms, the better, actually. But the key is to have all the types of orgasms. So I know for younger women, especially if they're used to using, you know, vibrators or something like that, and they're focusing too much on the clitoris, then that can be depleting for women, like way too much of that. You can overstimulate. That'll actually drain the jing for women, not nearly as dramatically as men. But it's really getting into the G-spot and the cervical orgasms that start to unlock and open the feminine. And that's what starts to create that super consciousness. That's what they talk about in these texts with tantric or sacred sexuality. You know, and for women, I would recommend the Magdalene manuscript if you want to go super deep, speaking about Yeshua and Magdalene and the sex magic of Isis and Osiris, and like what's available when you actually activate your energy body and can direct your will through that. And, you know, look out if you unlock that energy. Definitely be careful and stay grounded. But there's something mysterious and magical about orgasm itself. That's why the French called it le petit mort, like the little death. It's because it bypasses the mind and goes into a super conscious state or trance.
Yeah. And that's why it's such a powerful thing. And it's like, it needs to be harnessed the right way. I mean, we all know, like, you know, they can use sexual energy for both good and bad, right? So, and, you know, making sure you're using that. That's why intention is so important too when you're going into the sexual experience as well, because you want to make sure that you're using that energy for higher thinking and higher energy and all of that stuff.
Certainly.
Yeah, amazing. So what would you recommend for men, you know, even if they weren't, like, just exploring the energy within themselves? And I know that you had talked about, you know, having connections with other men and all of that, but just the exploring the energy within themselves, like through masturbation or whatever else, what would you recommend for them?
I mean, 100% self-pleasure as a ritual and practice is going to be critical. You need to get to know your body. I mean, how are you going to tell a partner what you like if you don't understand your body? You know, most porn is not a great idea, in my opinion, unless it's consciously or ethically produced, or there's like, you know, erotic art is one thing, but most pornography is, you know, tied up in very nasty energy. So that I wouldn't recommend that. I also wouldn't recommend, you know, ejaculating every time you self-pleasure. So what I do in my online courses and with a lot of male clients is, you know, can you do a 21-day challenge? No ejaculation. Still can have sex, still can self-pleasure, but this is where those practices of the microcosmic orbit and like practicing with breath work, practicing with cold water immersion, using the right herbs and getting enough minerals and enough high fat, good protein in your diet. All these things are part of it. Your movement, your meditation. It's all going to contribute to you just building and training a strong body. And really beyond everything for a man, and it's cliche, but there's no way around it. You have to have mission and purpose at the center.
Yeah.
Whatever that is. You can be a gardener, you can be a dad, you can be anything. It doesn't have to be grandiose, but you must commit. You must hone and focus on that, because that's what's going to orient a lot of your reality as a man. And that's also going to make you feel the most confident, strong, and fertile. So this is important for the male being and the male experience, that you have a goal, you have a purpose, you have an action plan, and you're moving towards it actively.
Mm-hmm. And so this is what I believe this is what you call the hero's journey. Is this what?
Well, the hero's journey is one way to map that plan, certainly.
Okay. So.
This is not my idea. This is, taken from the work of Joseph Campbell, who just really systematized it by studying all religions and mythologies worldwide and their creation myths, their hero myths, which we all know from Greek mythology. The Bible is chock full of heroes' journeys. This is the archetypal path of evolution, is how I look at it. It's actually beyond humanity. The human being our journey, because this is what nature does. Nature arises and peaks, and something happens. There's a breakthrough. There's a change of plane or being. There's a call to adventure. And then the journey begins, and there's tests and trials, and the old dead wood is burned away, and the old self and personality is chipped away at, and resilience and strength are built, and there's a confrontation and death and resurrection, which can be with the mother father, it can be with the dragon, which is a metaphor for the shadow, or the Kundalini Shakti, the life force that's unused, that's guarding the virgin, or the feminine that's underutilized, or the gold, which is the chi, that golden chi that is not being accessed due to XYZ. And then that energy is released and resolved. So you come back to the apotheosis, the return home, the reintegration of new personality traits, abilities, new epigenetics, new experiences back into the point of origin, which in the human case is the village or kingdom. So this is the journey we're all on all the time. And it's different for men and women. It's different for each individual. But I found it to be the most empowering map that works for me. And that's why I love sharing it with clients, because it adds meaning and narrative to what you're experiencing, including but not limited to the suffering and the trials. Because that's really the toughest part. And this is in, Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl. The human being is a meaning maker.
Yeah.
But the trick is you have to really find meaning or narrative that works for you. Because if you're depending on someone else's meaning, which governments, institutions, and corporations are happy to give you meaning, but does it work for you? Does it make you feel strong and integrated? And so this is really the work we all have to do as human beings.
I know we don't have much time left, but I'm just curious if you could talk a little bit about the communication too between male, female. I've heard some of your posts and some of your talks, you talk about some of the communication that goes on between male, female energies.
Yeah, there's many, many, many layers to it, but I love the archetypes of Shiva and Shakti, which are the primordial masculine, feminine in Tantra and in the Vedic culture and in yoga. And Shiva, or the masculine, can initiate and lead, but he does it with presence. He's just a pillar of presence and awareness. So he's solid, which allows the feminine, or Shakti, to dance and express in sensual play. And there's a huge range of motion, because the feminine can be quite chaotic and spontaneous, quite emotional, quite feeling deeply, which when harnessed with a powerful masculine energy is beautiful art. And so when that dance gets to play, it's amazing. And this can be as simple as, hey, honey, where do you want to go for dinner? And then she wants you to decide, but you won't say it. And, there's all these little ways that this plays out in a relationship that we're all familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
But the little, like, for me, I use the words decisive and surrendered. So as the man, be decisive, own it, commit, just go. Even if you feel like she's not going along with it, right? Like, pay attention, ask, tune in. And then for the feminine, for the women out there, or the feminine beings, express. If you hold back your expression, the masculine can't retune and lead. And if you want to be led, say so. If you don't want to be led, say so. This is the issue with the Disney stuff, is it's a damsel in distress, the disempowered masculine and feminine.
That's right. Exactly. And that's my hero is coming, my knight in shining armor.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that, because I do feel like men like that role. They like to be the leader and to, come in and it's like ingrained in them to want to save the woman. That's, and maybe it's Disney, but I feel like it's deeper than that, because, I feel like that's what men thrive on. They want to be the protector. They want to lead. They want to have that role. And if the woman, especially in our day and age, we're constantly stripping men of that, because we're such strong personalities now that, no, I can do it myself. Like, I don't need a man. I don't need, somebody to come in and save me. I can save myself. But, in relationships, especially in men who don't have their purpose and they don't have their place, they find that can be really stripping them of their duty and what they feel their purpose is.
Yeah. And it's quite obvious if you look at the results.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever met a woman who behaves like that, who was sensual, happy, healthy, fertile, and loving? There's that ossified energy that can form when a woman is trying to force her masculine polarity, but actually her feminine being is craving the feminine polarity. Now, that's not to say there aren't women who have masculine polarity. I don't meet them as often.
Yeah. And too, there's like a time and a place for everything, right?
Yeah.
So depending on what your situation is, that's where you turn to whatever energy is what you need at that point.
And this
Exactly.
I feel like is so misunderstood in our culture of relationships, because I feel like people just don't understand, the innate nature of like females and males, and how, they can live so easily cohabitary in a nice, loving environment if both polarities are being honored and, loved for what they're driven by,
Well, and this brings up the even bigger question, which, it's not even about men and women struggling in couples. It's because the village has been dismantled. We're meant to be in a village together.
Mm-hmm.
So children are not meant to be raised by a man and a woman in a white picket fence.
That's right.
It's meant to be done by a village. And most of the drama, not all, most of the drama created between men and women is sexual mating choices and preferences and child rearing. So this is where, and money, of course, resources.
Yeah.
So this is where the village comes into play. And what I would like to see, and what I'm actively building towards, is resurrecting these villages around the world. Because we're not going to do it in big cities where we're nameless and, disconnected. We're going to do it on the land in villages.
That's right.
And, that's available now. It's just a choice. Will humanity choose to find the others that are willing to live and step in this way, keeping all the tech, keeping all these beautiful practices of polarity and sexuality intact as we re-navigate back into the village.
And tribes. And I think you're so right, is that so missing in our culture. And that's where we gain that, passing down of this knowledge, because we've been disconnected from that tribe and that community, that we don't get that knowledge passed down so readily. I mean, we learn mostly by example. Yes, you can hear it and you can read it, but when you see it being lived, it's just so much more, you absorb so much more of it.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I guess we're getting close to our time. Hey, Linda?
Yes. Yes.
So maybe we just want to run through again, Kevin, what it is you have to offer, because, you know, if anybody wants to reach out to you, we will definitely put all of your information up on the podcast. You have your school, your online school, where you offer the flow state mastery and the masculine mastery. I believe those are two online courses. Then you have your mastermind in Costa Rica coming up on July the 1st. So you do have some spots left there, you said, I believe. You have your podcast that if anybody goes on your page, there's like, it's just full of videos and they're all so interesting. And then you also do private mentorship as well.
Correct.
And you have a book written as well that you had mentioned earlier, the Sex, Masculinity, and God, I believe is the name of it.
It's a trialogue, between me and two co-authors, Cattle Last and Daniel Dick. And that's available on Amazon.
Awesome. Is there anything else that we've left out?
No, that's everything. I mean, I would just recommend going to my Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and, you know, there's tons of content there. And my podcast is 115 episodes deep on every topic you can imagine that we've mentioned here. So
yeah. And for anybody listening, and for anyone listening to the recording, because we've recorded, as we said earlier, Kevin's I guess around 9 o'clock in the evening now, where you are, 9-10 o'clock in the evening, right?
Yeah.
And we are going on 10 o'clock in the morning. So you're 11 hours ahead of us. So we've had to record this session. So anybody listening who's heard what you've had to say, Kevin, I mean, it's just mind-boggling just listening to you, because you're just a wealth of information. It's amazing the experiences that you've had. And, you know, like I said, for a young man, it's just wonderful that you've been able to do everything that you've done so far in your life, and that, you know, how much you're offering for everyone to kind of help to build these communities that you're talking about, and help men and women. So I just want to thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Grateful, and I'm surrendered. So I'm listening to life as it flows through me. I can't take credit for all of it. It's happening, and I'm the scribe.
Beautiful. And as you said, we're all students, right? We're all teachers, we're all students. So yeah. So again, thank you so much. We are so grateful to have you come in and be interviewed like you have. I mean, you kind of just threw yourself out there and said whatever, and that's kind of what we went with. We'd love to have more time with you.
I know.
But,
mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I could
super
just
grateful to be here. Thank you both.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, what an interview that was. I truly enjoyed everything. Just wanted to soak him up. I wish we could have listened to him longer. He was just so amazing.
Oh my goodness, right? We could have had him on there for hours just listening in awe of everything that he's done and everything he's experienced. And he's just, what a beautiful soul.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So much fun.
So you have some announcements.
So yeah, I don't remember if I said the last show or not. I've started a new group. It's on Facebook, of course, right now, Spiritual Discussions to Help Heal the World. And it's brand new, so there's not a whole lot of members right now, but I am going to put the link to it. And we're starting to have some discussions on there. And what my plan is that I'm going to start doing some online circle meetings. So they're going to be, there's going to be a base, like you'll have to register to be them, but there's not going to be any charge for those meetings. So it's just circle meetings to kind of help people who are just, you know, kind of new to this world, or people that have been in this world for years and years and years, all their life. It's for everybody, right? So it's a place to go in and ask questions, have discussions, and yeah, so hopefully that's going to help some people.
So
and again, with
Karen.
Yeah. And then with those circle meetings, well, you know yourself, I've been doing circle meetings in person for about I don't know if it's 3 or 4 years. I know it's at least 3.
Yeah.
So coming up in September is either going to be 3 or 4. But in any case, I do sistership circle meetings in person, and I have done them online as well. And we're just hoping that this is going to spark the male as well, the male energy to start doing circle meetings, and hopefully be able to get the male and the female together, the energy together at some point in online circle meetings. So that would be great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that I'll put, like I say, I'll put the link up on our, I believe we have announcements at the top of our page. So I'll put the link where Linda has all of her links and I have my links. So I'll just add that one in as well to a couple of the other groups that I run. And yeah, that's pretty much it for me for the announcements.
Mm-hmm. I do have a little surprise coming for the next full moon, but I'm not going to disclose that until.
Oh, sure, Linda. Now just make us all think for the next little while, because you didn't even tell me.
But just know there is a surprise coming for the next full moon.
Good. Awesome.
Yeah.
So the next show is going to be episode 25.
Wow.
Crazy, right? And we have Ricky Goodall, who is a light worker out of Halifax, who's going to be our guest next week. And then the week after, we have because May is our finale month, right? For the end of our regular season, before we start once a month in our summer season. Well, kind of summer and fall, because we're going to go once a month from June until the end of October, right?
That's right.
So our vidcast is going to be the last Wednesday of the month for those 5 months. And then in November, we will start getting back into our weekly podcast or vidcast or whatever we call it.
Yeah. And our summer season is featuring all light workers or light workers from the Moncton area.
Moncton and surrounding, exactly. And so our the one at the end of May is so exciting. I was so happy that that she's coming on, and we had said it's going to be a surprise, but we do want to tell you today. I'm not as bad as Linda. I can't keep surprises. I have to tell you. So yeah. So who we have coming on after Ricky the following week, we have Pam Kale, and Pam is an artist here in the Moncton or surrounding area, I guess. And she's just amazing. I can't wait for her interview.
Yay.
We've had such amazing people on so far, Linda. Right?
Truly have. And it gives me goosebumps just thinking about it, because I just think that it's like everybody we've had on has been so incredible.
Exactly. And those that we have coming on are, I just can't wait. I mean, we're booked right now, right up into November.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we've got lots of things coming. It's exciting.
It is.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. So
anything else?
I think that's it.
I think that's pretty much it, eh? So again, thank you to Kevin. Kevin, we love you.
Yes.
We really, really love you. We love the interview. We love that we're so grateful to you for taking the time to come and share your knowledge with us. Yeah. All right. Have a good week, everyone, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.